All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of. No, welcome to episode 1 of. Dang, what's the name of our.
Let me pitch this.
Okay,
You mean the no no
Let's
no
start
no
over.
no 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 no. This is a great intro. Ian, keep going.
That show. Episode 1 was canceled because our recorder died.
And we lost all of it.
Yeah, it didn't save. So
And then
this is
after
episode
I
2,
cried,
and we'll
for
redo
3
episode
hours.
1 later. This is episode 2, and it's first.
we'll get back to it.
Yes. So episode 2 will come first, and then episode 1 will be next. I'm Ian Lund, your host, and Marcus Knipp, the not host.
I am the host. Ian's my co-host.
Not true. Anyway,
Wait, real quick. Let me check my notes. Oh, what? Right here in the notes.
that's a joke from the
is it-
first podcast. You can't make that.
It's a good joke. It worked.
But they don't know it.
Yeah, they don't need to know it. They'll never hear that. I made one good joke in the whole podcast, and it was that one.
That's true.
So
So anyway. Yeah.
And my notes still do say Ian's the co-host. So, I mean, I wasn't lying either. I mean, I guess I was lying, but if I said it once, then it's fine. All right, so do you think we should get to the premise of the show?
Yeah. So the premise of the show is basically we're both writers and artists, and we're constantly writing stories, coming up with ideas. So the premise of this show, let me pitch it to you, is us pitching our ideas to each other, and then you can vote on which one you think is best. And maybe someday Stanley will hear one of them and will want to use us as the writer for his next superhero. I don't know.
It's my story. Vote for me to win.
All right, so Marcus, would you like to go first?
Oh, we're not going to do that cool Take a Chance on Me bit where we sang that ABBA song?
Take a chance on.
Take a chance, take a chance, take a chance, take a chance.
It doesn't work. That was in the first episode.
Yeah, no, that was
See,
a really good bit too.
The next episode, we're gonna have to go back and explain all of this.
Oh no, real quick. Well, got this. I'll cover the rest of the good jokes we had. Ian and I are huge racists. I'm racist against white people. We had the cool ABBA bit. We had the notes bit. Ian said a super good joke that I can't remember, but I remember laughing very hard at. And then there was a joke where Ian said he had to look at his notes, and I said, Ian, why does your notes say butts, 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 butts? And that was a joke that I stole from something that I don't remember what I stole it from.
I think it was Bob's Burgers, but I don't know.
It's from something. So if you hear that joke and be like, Marcus, that's super funny, or Marcus, you stole somebody's I didn't steal it. I don't know whose it was. If I did, I would credit them right now.
So
But know that it's not mine. I heard it somewhere.
also, before we get started, I gotta quick say something too. So Marcus does Wisdom Wednesdays, also WW, that's what I call it. And he only has two main followers, Ashley and Austin Shippey.
And Shippy.
And so I'm assuming that our only 2 listeners are going to be Ashley Nicholson and Austin Shippey. So I just want to give a quick shout out to them and say, hey, you better listen to this, otherwise.
Otherwise,
you know.
Ian will kill himself.
Yes.
That's a pretty good joke.
Yeah.
Look at that. There's one good joke on this one. I don't
So-
know if suicide jokes are funny though. We're okay.
Yeah. We should
I think
probably keep this pretty-
I made one of those on another podcast I was on, and I believe I got edited out.
Yeah, and so
Ooh, I also asked for money. Give us money, please.
yeah,
All right, we
give
covered.
us money because we're poor. Oh yeah, because
we essentially
Marcus is
covered episode
homeless.
1. We covered episode 1. Give us money. Ian's a huge racist.
Marcus
and
is
butts,
homeless.
butts. And then they take a chance on me bit.
Take a chance on me.
Take a chance, take a chance, take a chance.
All right. Okay. Also, we actually met in this coffee shop to record the first podcast, and it closed. So now we're in my car.
Now we're in Ian's car.
Bunch of people just walked by.
I'm
they
fully
looked
expecting
at
to get
us. I'm
lots
pretty
of weird looks. Yeah, for sure.
Pretty sure they thought we were like drug dealers or, terrorists or something. No, we're not blowing up
terrorists.
Omaha.
Oh yeah, we're not. Wink. How do you wink over audio form?
I don't know.
Wait, I might have picked it up. I don't know. I winked into the mic. It might have made noise. I don't know how that works. I think we should get into the show, though.
All right.
Who's going first?
I went first for episode 1. Would you like to go first?
Well, this is episode 1.
No, this is episode.
This
2.
is episode 1.
Episode 1 is no longer. Episode 1 doesn't exist.
This is 1.5.
Our show will start at episode 2.
No, at episode 1.5.
Okay, 1.5. How about 1.8?
Okay, we can meet there. 1.8. This is episode 1.8.
Episode 1.8.
And Ian did go first. Yeah, I got this.
All right.
Okay, so this is what I want you to picture. This is a different way than I pitched the first story, but this is a different story. We're not doing the same thing again, except for all of our old classic bits from episode 1, like the ABBA bit. Picture this, and this is about as much as Ian knows about this story too. You see a kid on his bike. A kid looks up to be about 7 years old, riding through what looks like a fairly Phineas and Ferb-esque town. To where it's kind of cartoony, but
wait. Is it going to be animated?
It is going. I think not, because I think the jokes will work better if it's not animated.
Okay.
But think like not dark and gritty of a like a big town and big city feel,
Okay.
but also like suburban. To like Phineas and Ferb, there's skyscrapers, but also very close to a neighborhood.
Like kind of Boy Meets World look, kind of a.
Yeah, like in the later story, like it's not necessarily dark and gritty feeling, but it's also big city-esque.
Okay.
To where there's an inner city and stuff to go to, and you see a kid riding his bike. The kid's too young to be riding his bike in the middle of a city because he's about 7 years old. And this kid, all of a sudden, out of the blue, rides down this alley and just gets pulled off his bike by these two bigger-looking people, and they drag him down to this alley, and they throw him on the ground, and they start asking him where the stuff is. And this kid won't tell him anything, and they pull out this gun, and they start threatening him with it, and then they shoot this kid, and this is going to be the opening scene to this,
dark.
like, assuming I pitch it. They shoot this kid in the head, and it just leaves a huge welt because it's an airsoft gun. Now, let me get to the point of this. After they shoot him in the head, they're like, tell us where the fun dip is, right? The whole hook of this show is drug dealing for kids, but like little kids. And I know that like there are probably kids who are addicted to drugs and stuff. I don't want to get into like a dark thing like that. I'm not trying to do that. This is going to be like kids like candy, right? So it's going to be like inner city drug dealing mafia gang type stuff. Instead of like actual guns, it's airsoft guns, and it's going to be candy instead of drugs.
What's the fun dip?
Well, yeah, like give me the fun dip. If you freaking dude, we got ripped off. Our shipment of Twizzlers got jacked from us. We got to load up ride or die. Get our Twizzlers back. So instead of just giving you, which I think this is a good concept. Instead of just giving you a good concept, we're supposed to actually give you a story. So I'm picturing this to be fairly character based, but also driven on the world and try to do clever, cool things with just the way actual drug mules and stuff work and stuff like that, and people making their own candy or modifying the candy. Like, to this day, I do not understand why people like freaking don't mix candies more. Like, why don't I get a Skittle flavored Sour Patch Kid? Like, it does not just like, I know there are sour Skittles, but like it doesn't taste as good as a Sour Patch Kid. Like, why don't I get a Sour Patch Kid that is like Skittle flavored? You know, like, so it's gonna, I think, to make it feel like, you know, like they're meth labs and stuff, and like you have to cook it and make it to make it feel and kind of get that vibe. You got like these kids who like get like, well, I gotta get like the Skittles, and I crush up these Skittles and I like bake it in. Yeah, I bake it into this thing, and I mix like the powder or like the sugar crystal things from Sour Patch Kids in like this special Skittle mix to give you like that good stuff, right? So I'm envisioning that, but I envision this kid coming through, and this, I actually have a question for Ian when I'm pitching this. I'm envisioning this a different kid, like, but it's a new kid comes to this town, and I don't know if I want him to be coming to this town and kind of knowing what's up, and he adapts very well into this world of candy drug dealing with airsoft guns, or if he sees the ridiculousness and craziousness and fantasticalness of all of it. Like, which one do you think would play better? To where, like, the whole time he's like, what the heck like, why are you guys doing this? Like, the whole, I'm picturing this to be a TV show. Like, the whole series, should this new kid be like, what are you doing? Like, it's candy. Like, what, like, you're like, you literally punch this kid over candy, and you're like making it, and like you're all riding your bikes around, and people are like trying to take it. Like, or do you think it'd be better if he comes in and he's very invested into it? Like, he comes in with like a chip on his shoulder, wanting to work his way up the chain of like some candy gang.
I feel like you could go either direction, and either direction would take the story completely different. If you have him think like, what the heck is this, why are you guys doing this, it's going to turn into like he's the hero and he's going to save the day, and it's like there's a moral, don't do drugs or whatever, and candy being drugs, and it's going to be kind of that type
Don't
of
not do
vibe.
drugs.
Where like by the end of the show they're like, it changes, and they're all like exchanging candy, and now they're not drug dealing anymore. And that could be okay, but
What a
but
what a twist.
yeah,
The twist of my show is they break down and make like a candy economic system to where it's not cutthroat or violent. It's just like candy's now the currency for kids in this town.
that would be great. You could do that, or if you had him be like the get really into it and want to like work his way up the chain, that could also have an interesting turn. But I feel like that could maybe be a lot darker, and it's gonna be like a lot more like he's gonna do what he has to work his way up on up this chain of command, and there's gonna be a lot more welts and a lot more shootings of plastic BBs. Anyway, so it could go either way. You could also do both. You could have him be super into it, and then he starts to work his way up, and he's like, this is really corrupt, this isn't right. And then he kind of tries to change things, and then maybe make like a civil war out of it, or something like that.
I like the idea, personally. I was just thinking about it. I think there's legitimate comical ways that you could get around to, like, it's not necessarily dark things. Like, it's just candy. Like, I think like the novelty of it has to play into, like, I want to make a sort of Breaking Bad-esque thing. Like, my idea is, and I think I'm going to go with him being very into it, to where nobody's the good guy, but because it's just candy and it's just a huge group of kids with airsoft guns, nobody's necessarily the bad guy either. To where even though it is like a parallel for like drug dealing and stuff, like, nobody's a bad guy. It's like, I got into like an airsoft war with a bunch of kids from school, and then like they took my candy because they beat me in an airsoft war. Like, that doesn't necessarily sound like they're a villain to me. You know what I mean?
I feel like this is an episode of Even Stevens.
I feel like this probably has had to have been done.
Lois and
And
Twitty doing this.
Oh, Alan.
Yeah, and like Tom would be the guy in the basement with the lab coat making the candy lab.
I mean, also Disney. If you wanna get, I don't know anybody's real name besides Shia LaBeouf, but if you wanna get and Christy Carlson Romano, if you wanna get her out of porn and get Shia LaBeouf out of whatever the heck he's doing with his life besides touring America by hitchhiking or some crap. He was like, dude, he passed in front of like my neighborhood of like last summer when he was doing that hitchhiking thing. Yeah, like, what the heck, Shia? I'm a huge Even Stevens fan. We could talk about that. Hit me up. Well, like, no. So, and I think. So this kid, the way I'm seeing this now, is this kid's gonna come in, and let's call him Steven. Steven comes in, he's the new kid in town. He's gonna be like 8, and the way I'm kind of thinking is like, kids who have crazy imaginations and stuff, it's got to be before they start to get super interested in the girls, right? So it's gonna be between the ages of like 7 to 12ish, like before middle school is the age is gonna be the age of all these kids. before you generally start to worry about kids actually doing drugs. So Steven comes into town. He's the new kid, and he is into it, and he finds on his street that there's another kid on the street who's also kind of new in town, but apparently is very good at getting that good candy mix, right? To where this kid has like the most banging recipe for. I think it's gonna be like a shorter show, maybe 2 seasons. But I see season 1 breaking down to 2 arcs. One going to be the arc of Steven's gonna be good and clever with his words, and he's gonna be like 8. So I see like Steven, and again the whole time I'm picturing this as written as kids talk, to where things aren't gonna make logical sense.
Kind of like that Netflix show, the 13 Reasons or whatever. That it was it was like written exactly the way teenagers talk. I'm not saying that's a good show. It's a terrible show. Don't watch it. But the dialogue is written the way teenagers talk.
Yeah. So
kind of like that.
So the kids are gonna sound like kids. The kids are going to make logical phallical jumps that phallical's not a word. Like
it's a new word.
These jumps that don't make any sense. But kids aren't smart. They're still figuring everything out. They're still figuring out how to think logically. But I see this kid, so like his main asset and the thing that he's already good at, and what's gonna kind of get him halfway up that chain to like the mid-season finale, is gonna be his words. He's very good at talking, so he convinces this kid to help this gang out. So he kind of gets that in, and then he bonds with this kid. So it's kind of like they feel very connected, like they become best friends, and they start to work their way up the chain. This guy has this great recipe for this candy. He talks his way up the chain, and eventually they get to a point when he has to do that dark deed. He has to go on a drive-by. He has to hop on the pegs to this kid's bike and take his airsoft gun, and like that's gonna be like the mid-season finale is gonna be this kid having to actually get out the gun and get his hands dirty, the proverbial gun. And again, I imagine everything being shot like I want to convey as they drive by, as they get on this kid gets on his bike, and our protagonist Steven gets on his like the pegs to this bike and gets out this airsoft gun. Everything's shot just like a movie where there's actually a drive-by, to where like the music starts going and it's very dramatic and there's close-ups and all this stuff, and the people getting shot are like overselling it ridiculously, right? I want to convey that, but then the second that like they speed off on their bike, it immediately just like be a bunch of kids like, ow, like I freaking got a welt from that. That sucks. Like it's so over dramatic during like these big fight scenes and these big scenes, but then like as soon as it's over, I want it to snap back to reality, and just be like, dang it, like that stings. What the frick? Like to where it's very over the top, but also knows how silly it is and knows that it's a very silly world.
Okay.
And then I see after that just Steven further going into darkness, proverbial darkness, of using his airsoft gun more, and eventually he will succeed the person who's in charge of the gang and become the candy drug kingpin along with his best friend from the first episode. And then season 2, I think would be cool. Maybe a cool idea is season 1 takes over a lot of years, to where season 2 is them being 12 and them kind of figuring out like what's next, to where here's no joke, here's how I think season 2 should end. I think this is only gonna be a 2-season show. It ends, but the last episode of season 2 is they get to middle school. They don't know that candy is not like drugs there in middle school. So they get to middle school, everybody's using paintball guns, and since they're teenagers now, it's caffeine is the new drug, because it's actually a drug. So there's all kinds of caffeine mixes, and they're like, we're way behind the game. And then like the show ends with them being like, we gotta step it up and figure this crap out again. And that's the cut to black. No more of this show's ever gonna get released. But like that's how I see this show end, like working.
That's great.
Do you have any specific questions for me, Ian?
No. You summed it up really well. How does he know his best friend again? I'm sure you said, but
Hearsay
quick
is.
recap.
I picture it very much because he's gonna be he's already gonna be into this kind of thing. So when he moves into town, he kind of goes on his bike and drives around the city, and he hears other kids talking about this kind of like back alley shady people. Shady again. I'm air quoting a lot. You can't see this is an audio medium, but he hears these shady kids or whatever talking about this guy who has this really good recipe, but doesn't want to cook or whatever. So he goes and uses his clever words to convince this kid to cook.
All right.
I like that one. I think it's a very fun, silly idea.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I think that actually has potential. Just as a silly
TM,
show.
TM, TM.
Yeah, TM. Yeah, I don't have any questions. You summed it up really well.
And then
Where's Steven from originally? Like, what made him move?
like I either think it needs to be like a ridiculous reason, like in this world of like fantastical stuff that where like these kids are like dealing with their like deep hardcore problems like this. I think that this either needs to happen or like to where like in contrast to where his like parents move because like just dad gets a new job or something, or in a more extreme contrast is the whole show there are like underlying tones of like his parents being like real life assassins or something, to where like they're actually living this crazy fantastical life, and like Steven's just this dumb kid selling candy to people who want to get a sugar high.
That's good.
I feel like it should be one of the like it needs to contrast in some way to where it's either the real crazy life or it was just the most mundane thing.
So like, is he gonna have any kind of regret or anything like from the moving? Like, is that gonna have any kind of impact on why he gets involved in these drugs, this candy?
I'm gonna say it's gonna be. Oh, I can't spoil this for you, because you're just starting to watch Parks and Rec. I'm gonna say he's gonna be like this. He wanted to do good back where he was. However, he messed up really bad and kind of ruined his reputation by let's come up with some dumb thing. He tried to cook. Like, let's say he was gonna be like, he had this cool recipe, but he had like hay fever while he was doing it, so he sneezed all over his product, but like he didn't realize that it got gross, so he handed out this product and it had like snot and stuff all over it. So like these kids are like, what the heck? Like he just ruined his reputation to where like he always tried to work his way up the chain there, and he was always been very ambitious, but it just never worked out from this one big mistake that like screwed his whole career over. And then he moved to this new city, and he's like, all right, nobody knows me here, it's all good. And he just goes on, yeah, I guess.
All right.
Very ambitious.
That's cool. I like it. What's this town going to be based off of? Like, is it based off of any kind of real town or anything?
As much as like Gotham or Metropolis is based off of a real town, like it's got to be a town that doesn't have much real crime in it, because these kids are riding around at nighttime and stuff all the time. But it also it can't be like a town to where like,
So it's going to be like a small town, or like an Adventures in Odyssey type of town.
Yeah, I'm thinking like think Chicago. Have you ever been to Chicago?
Okay.
But if Chicago was like this big huge city that like was literally just surrounded by the most mundane, stereotypical suburbia of all time.
Okay. Which it kind of is, but
No, because
Okay.
like there's still crime and stuff that happens all around Chicago.
Yeah, no, there is.
And like I'm talking like the most mundane, stereotypical suburbia, as in like
Okay.
I'm trying to think of a thing that has a very good example of it. I can't think of anything right now.
I kind of get what you're saying, though.
Yeah, like think like
Alright.
Adventures in Odyssey, where like everybody knows each other and it's very
Yeah.
small town. So like think like that. Like what if like a big huge city environment was surrounded by Whitson and Adventures in Odyssey and stuff
Okay.
like that kind of feel.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. All right. Huh.
That's all I have. If you don't have any more questions, we can get into your story.
Yeah, I don't have any more questions. That's cool, man.
Sweet.
All right, we're gonna take a commercial break real quick. No, wait.
money.
Scratch
Just
that.
just give
We
us
don't
money.
have sponsors 'cause
Please
we're
give me
poor.
money. I would like to sponsor. Just give please. I'm hungry all the time, and
Do you want to help save a child's life?
and Ian has a drug problem, and he's deep in debt with the loan sharks. So if you don't
Drug
give us
candy.
if you don't give us money, Ian's gonna have his tongue cut out, which is really gross. He's also super racist. That I already used that bit.
Yeah, we're both racist, man.
I hate white people.
So yeah, and we're back from our commercial break. That was our commercial break.
Nailed it. Got it. In
Marcus asking for money,
one. Just please give us money.
and that will be our commercial break for every episode until we get a real
Until
sponsor.
somebody actually sponsors us. We only take cash right now, and you have to see us in real life because I'm not giving. Oh, we don't have. I guess if you know either of our addresses, which we're not going to give out, if you know our address and send us money, that's cool too.
You can send it to my work address. That's fine.
Oh yeah, Ian has a job.
Yeah, because I'm a grown up.
Oh, I mean, define grown up. If you could define grown up as in like somebody who's like finished growing up and a grown up since like 8th grade.
Grown up meaning I'm working an actual job.
I'm working a fake job as a figment of my imagination.
Yeah, you don't actually work.
I spend $9.
Yep.
Imaginary
You close
bucks.
your eyes and you pretend that you're working.
I straight up walk into Walmart. I'd be like, hey, yo, don't have a job in real life, but in my head job, I'm loaded. Can I spend head job money? Ian, you done broke it. Can I spend my imaginary head job dollars here? Oh, I can't? Okay, thanks, Walmart. Bye. All right, Ian, what's your story? Enough of that.
All right. So my story.
Ian, why does your notes just say anus, butthole, rectum on it? The heck kind of story is that? Yeah, Ian, it does. That's how it works.
It's the best story ever.
I mean, you have it in the wrong order. It does not go from the anus to the butthole to the rectum. Technically, anus and butthole are pretty much the same thing, first of all. Second of all, rectum comes first. It should be like, I believe it's sphincter rectum anus? Is that how it will go? I don't know. I don't know anatomy super good.
So yeah, I apologize for any parents that are watching this.
Listening is an audio medium, Ian. What are you talking about? Hey,
But listen-
hey,
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm
Hey.
stupid.
hold up real quick. I silenced my phone this time. I didn't silence my phone in OG1, in our original episode 1. So we're already doing better.
That's true.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. You're good. So yeah, my story, it's a little bit different. It's kind of along kind of a superhero theme. It's a little bit more mystical, like sci-fi-ish. And it's kind of the medium it takes place in is more of like a novel type of thing. Maybe a comic book would be cool, but I don't really know how I would illustrate it. So I'm kind of going with a novel. The premise of it is basically a superhero that is born when he's needed, and then he dies. So it's not an ongoing hero that is constantly saving the world from, petty little crimes or, villains coming up and then he has to fight them. So what happens is a specific hero is born or a person is born with a power, when an event is going to happen in history, that hero is going to need to prevent the world from being destroyed. Like, for example, to prevent World War III, some hero is born, prior to the World War III and prevents that from happening and then dies. And the idea is that every time the hero is born, it's the same hero reincarnated. I don't really have any characters yet. It's mostly just that story arc. Kind of my idea where I want to take it is these reincarnated heroes, or this reincarnated hero, is like another being in another dimension. And in this other dimension, there is like, what am I trying to say? There's another dimension, and it's this being, and man, I totally lost what I was saying. Anyway, so I had a brain fart.
Smelled real bad.
Yeah, it did. So in this second dimension, this reincarnate hero kind of watches over Earth. Not like God, not like he's like God or anything, or and he's not human, but it's like just some kind of like the Force, I guess, would be the best way to describe it. And when something bad is going to happen, he allows himself to be born into the world and then stops that bad thing from happening. And the catch is then he dies, and he's not, so he doesn't continually stay alive. And the powers are gonna vary depending on what he needs. And but the interesting thing is when he's born, how it works is he's born and he doesn't know who he is at first. He has to kind of figure that out and figure out his powers, because when he takes on the human form, he can't take his intellectual knowledge of being a higher being with him. And so he's going to grow up and kind of figure out who he is, figure out he has powers, just like he's a normal, human who, like becomes a superhero or whatever. And when he figures out he has powers, he starts saving people, and then this big thing happens. And he's like, I gotta do something about this, and he saves the world, and then he dies, and then he's no longer human, and his spiritual force, we'll call it, it goes back into his dimension. And that's pretty much all I have, I'll be honest.
Okay, so the main question I have is there like a limit to, like, once he goes, does he have to wait so many years before he can reincarnate again? Because, like, how do you, or did this force recently just start happening? Or how do you explain things like World War I, like World War II, where this hero didn't happen? Or is it going to be taking place in, like, a different timeline where, like, World War I and World War II were prevented by this hero?
I'm sorry. Could you, like, repeat?
I'm guessing, like,
explain that better.
So is this going to take place in our world where, like, World War I and World War II happened? And if World War I and World War II happened, why didn't he turn himself into a superhero then, or become born then to stop those? Or can he only go, like, every so many hundred years, and he prevented a war before World War II, and then but he had to wait, and World War II took place during this time period when he could not.
Okay. Well, it would kind of be. It would be a different world. Like, I don't know if I'd have something like World War II in there. But the thing is the reason why he does this is to stop the world from being completely destroyed. Obviously, there's still going to be, like, wars happening and crime and little stuff like that, and even something big like World War II could happen. But like what he would stop would be like an example would be during the Cold War. Like maybe he would be born and he stopped Russia and America from going nuclear on each other or something like that. Or he was born during I can't think of anything else in history.
Or like a big guy with a weird purple helmet.
Yeah, like he was born
and eats the world.
before some alien race comes to try and take over Earth or something like that.
Gotcha. So you're dealing with things that can be much more than fantastical.
Yes.
And then I had another question, which I was just curious about. So do you think people will start to catch on? Like, are you going to have any characters who kind of like they go through history and they realize that throughout history there's always like a random hero that shows up just before these world-shattering events or potential world-shattering and kind of figure out roughly what's going on? And then do you think that even better, like let's say he recently stops an alien race from destroying Earth, and then by this point this like a character that has been writing that you have like created or whatever has kind of figured it out, is then yelling at him, and he has to deal with like the moral obligations because like a World War II, like a world war breaks out.
Okay.
And he doesn't stop it because it's not one of those world breaking ones. It's not going to destroy the whole world, right? Like, are you gonna like? Is he gonna have to deal with like the moral ramifications of like knowing he theoretically has the power to stop that? And is anybody gonna figure that out and be like, you stop certain things, but why don't you stop things like this? Like, is that ever gonna take place?
It could, it very well could when he's on Earth as a human. He might want to do something about that, but when he's not born as a human, he that's a good question. He just has to make decisions. Sometimes, he has to decide, no, this isn't worth becoming born as a human. And I feel like there's going to be some kind of catch to where, like, he can't, like, he has to, something's going to make him make that decision. Like, when he's born as a human, it slowly kills him or something like that, so that he does only want to do
The
prevent
world
major
shattering.
things.
Yeah.
But that's still kind of in the making. I haven't quite figured out how that's going to work. Like maybe there's a higher power above him. Still kind of toying with that.
It definitely sounds very it sounds like something like sometimes you hear people pitch ideas or talk about their stories and be like, oh, like that's something I think I would have thought of. That legitimately sounds like a story I would never ever think of in a million years. Like, and I think those are the most interesting for me to hear about, and that's why I have so many questions, because it's something that I would never ever think to do.
Yeah.
Like that story interests me very much, to the extent that we could make 2 whole other podcasts where I'm just sitting here asking you questions because I'm like, ooh, like, but like this or this or this, because I would never think of that, and I never do think of anything like that.
Yeah.
That's super interesting, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't tell you how I came up with it. I just one of those things I just thought of.
I think the way I came up with mine legitimately was just eating a Fun Dip, and I poured it on the table and probably made a snorting it joke. That's legitimately probably how my story came about, because I made a joke about snorting Fun Dip one time. What's up?
That's funny. But yeah, and like another thing, another issue I have to kind of work out with my story too, is because it's a different hero every time. It's not going to be the same character, so people aren't going to have the opportunity to become attached to a character the way they would in a normal story, if that makes sense. Because if he's going to be born and then he dies, and then that's it, and then the next story is going to be another hero who's born and then dies, and so you have to become attached and then unattached each time.
And like you could like also like toy with the idea of like fate, like you make him and like he becomes like reincarnated this time, but he's just like huge D bag, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then like you could, I think like that could also be neat, is like you toy with like fate to where like maybe the way that this particular event gets stopped and saved isn't from the hero doing the hero thing. It's from like this kind of d-bag who's like almost a villain, but because of some of the villain's action he did, he ripped off somebody for his own gain, and then thanks to him stealing this huge shipment of whatever, these people didn't get these computer chips to, like, you know what I mean, like to where
Yeah.
like, maybe he does like a sort of villainous theftist thing or something, and then because of that the world ends. So he still dies, he still saves the world, but it's less of him being a hero and more of him trying to figure it out.
Yeah, kind of try to make him not as likable.
Like with certain like I think
Yeah.
like that could be something that could be neat, is like you could relate to so many different people, because depending on how long this book would be and whatever, he could come back 20 times in the same book, and I think you could always get like a fresh take. As long as you could come with 20 different kind of fresh disasters for him to deal with, you could in theory write 20 different solutions that only this character could solve in more than the ways that just his powers are more relevant than other times, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
because if his powers, like you said, his powers would be different, but like his personality would be different. So like this one is specific and the best to take care of this problem for more reasons than just his power, because this one thinks this way and this one is this way.
Mhm.
Like to the extent, like, I mean, this just like I just had this idea, like, what if there's like kind of like a d-baggy villain who's gonna like end the world at some point, and he comes back as like an attractive girl this time, like this like force, like, I mean, like, I'm not saying you want to do this or anything, but just like an example, like, just is kind of like a d-baggy skeevy guy, and he's a pretty girl this time when he grows up, to where like he's interested in her, and like for whatever reason, like that progresses and is part of the reason.
Yeah.
Like, I think that could be. See, Ian, this your
Yeah.
idea is better than my idea, and I have so many questions.
Yeah. Yeah. It's still not as structured as I'd like it to be. That's probably why you have a lot of the questions. I kind of want to work on that, having more of like a story. But I see what you're saying. Those are some good points.
Your idea sounds so cool to me.
What?
I said your idea sounds so cool to me.
Wait, what? Say that again.
No,
No, I know.
my idea's hilarious.
Well, I've also been kind of playing with the idea, and maybe not. But instead of having it be one reincarnate hero, having like multiple reincarnate heroes living in this this other dimension, and so then you could have multiple heroes born at once, or one's born and dies, and then another one's born right away. So you could have two heroes that are born at the same time, and they could either be against each other, for each other, they could team up, whatever. Maybe for different, for different disasters, or for the same thing. And then they would die, and then they would each be reincarnated, if that makes sense. So like there could be, a hero that's born in China to stop something that happens there, and a hero that's born in America to stop something that happens there. And you, at certain points, you could have them meet up, and then it'll just vary whether they get along, don't get along.
It's so
Anyway,
tight. I like it. I don't have any more super prevalent questions that wouldn't just like make this take for forever.
Yeah, that's about all I have for mine.
So should we wrap up the show?
Yeah. And the the recording device did not die this time.
Heck
So-
yeah! So you're saying we're gonna save this and post it?
Yeah, so I think the show
So-
was a
so-
success, at least
so-
as far as
We will.
us getting it produced.
We won't have to make another one and be like, "This is episode 1.9. What's up?"
Yep. Yeah. I really hope it doesn't just die like right now.
Yeah, that would blow.
Um,
So do we want to give out like Twitters or anything?
sure.
Or a voting system, or how do we want people to vote about which story you think is cooler? I originally thought, because you didn't seem I didn't know a lot about your story. You didn't seem super confident going in. I was like, ooh, I'm definitely gonna win this one because this is a hilarious, great, fun story. I think you'll win because that story, at least to
I
me,
don't know.
I would vote for your story personally.
You know, I actually really liked your story. I just thought it was funny. But I'll admit my story was not very strong. It wasn't going in because I haven't thought about it in maybe a couple months. I'm trying to think when I came up with it, maybe even a year ago or so. But as I was, we were talking about this earlier. As I was talking about it, it started to kind of come together in my head more. So I like both of them. Yours is definitely on the comical level, like it's funny. You're entertained by it. Whereas mine's more of you want to know what's happening and kind of engrossing. So, both really good ideas. So for voting, what do you think they should do?
Do we just have them tweet at us or wherever? Like, I'm sure wherever we put this, there'll be a comment section. There's always a comment section,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
So-
YouTube's free. I'm thinking we'll probably just use YouTube.
Yeah. Eventually we'll have a website. We're still working out the gist of that. But this will be on YouTube, and just go ahead and comment what you think.
Please vote for
Uh,
me, but I think Ian's story's better.
Yeah, vote for whatever you think is the best or whatever you like, and we'll
And-
add up the votes.
And
And-
don't do. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you
No,
again.
you're good.
Don't do any of that stupid. You thought they were both good, and I only say that because I could see some of our friends or some people we know who know both of us and stuff. Like, they might be both good ideas. Pick one you think should be better.
I don't care. It could be because
If you vote
I'll
for both
admit
of our
I stutter a lot
stories-
on air. So if that, then pick Marcus's, or if because Marcus said something in his that you're like, oh, that's stupid, pick mine.
or because Ian's a super big racist.
Yeah,
Vote for
so-
me.
Like pick, even if there's one reason why you don't like one, just make sure you pick just one.
Or even just as a human being. Like, you'd be like, I just hate that guy as a
Yeah.
person. His story was way better. I hate him as a person. So vote for the other guy. But
Yeah, like a lot of
yeah.
people hate Marcus, you know.
all
but
kinds of
love
people
me,
hate me.
So,
I tend to say very stupid things at the very, very worstest time to say stupid things. So
at least
That's
you
fair
say
enough.
something, dude. I just don't say anything
which is
all the time.
which is so
And
good.
then I come across as like a creeper.
Oh no, it's so good.
great.
No, you gotta just turn it up to 11. Take that 10 to put it to 11, and just do Peter from the Cosby Show, and just sit there, don't say anything, stand up and bolt. Just run as fast as you can. Get out of there. Get in your car, drive away.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good. That's just a bit of life advice for you.
So basically, we just told them to pick one of us that they like and vote.
No, please,
Pick one of our stories, vote.
please, yeah, pick based on the story that you thought was interesting.
You can also shoot us an email if you have questions.
Are you gonna give an email for them to send it to?
You know, do you want to, well, I was going to ask you, do you want it to go to your email or my email?
We could just make an email.
Yeah, go ahead and send it to
do you
Radio
wanna call it?
Highway Productions.
Got it.
RAIDO. Wait, you just messed me up.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, my bad. You
No,
do
you're
your
good.
thing.
You know what? I was gonna spell it, but it'll just be written out in the comments. That's kind of our little production name, or mine that I've used for recording stuff in the past. So it's
And
an
selling
extra.
drugs.
It's an extra Gmail I have. Go ahead and send it to that. And
And then
if you have any questions,
you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at both of those things at Afro Thunda.
yeah. I don't use social media because no.
I stay off the grid except for this podcast.
Yes. No, I use social media, but I don't remember what my tag is on Instagram or Twitter.
Yeah, I never use Twitter though. I am pretty active on Instagram.
Yeah. I used to
Oh,
use Instagram
and
until I got a freaking Windows phone.
Oh, you can't have it. And on Snapchat, I'm Fart McGee. Look me up. That's not a joke. That's not a bit that I just did for this podcast. That's my name on Instagram or on Snapchat.
Yeah, I think this is the longest wrap up in the history of podcasts.
Yeah, it's because I always think of dumb jokes to say. That's me.
Yeah.
I do this on all other podcasts I've been on too. Okay,
Alright.
well, thanks for listening. I'll
Yeah.
stop interrupting Ian. He can sign us off.
All right. Thanks for listening. See ya.
Peace.